Hi everyone. So I'm just going to walk you through kind of like my design choices for this webinar and kind of my thought process as I was going along making it. So the topic in which I chose was DEI in online learning environments. And when I started making this webinar, I took into consideration the different things that were said in the survey. And basically, a lot of the stuff that was talked about in the survey is that people wanted to learn from short videos. They wanted to learn from interactive components. They also really enjoyed having different tangible PDFs that they could download and reference later. So these are all considerations that I put into the webinar when I was designing it. In terms of the different learning theories that kind of were the target of this webinar and the ones that I wanted to include, the first one was constructivism. So they need to be able to apply the DEI principles to different scenarios and different drag and drop activities. So you guys will be able to see in the webinar that there's different drag and drop activities for that. I also wanted to focus on connectivism because I want the learners to be able to connect the DEI principles to real world examples and being able to connect those to our profession and kind of like have that reflection piece. And then that kind of goes right into the social development theory, because there is, at the end of the webinar, there is a lot of reflecting that I want everyone to do based on your own professional experience, but also what you learned in the webinar. So if we just do a little bit of talking about the webinar is called Breaking Barriers, Designing Inclusive Online Learning for Every Student. So when you start the webinar, you're gonna obviously be exploring inclusive design that can obviously transform online learning environments. And the learning goals for this webinar are identifying 2 DEI principles that improve online course design, explain why accessibility supports learner equity, apply 1 inclusive design principle to improve a sample activity, and distinguish between inclusive and non-inclusive course features. And then lastly, describe 1 strategy to reduce bias in assessment. So basically, on the right, you have the different categories of the webinar. So you have what is DEI in online learning, why DEI matters in online courses, the key principles, designing for accessibility, culturally inclusive course materials. And that actually reminds me. So one of the reasons why accessibility, being culturally inclusive, and addressing bias are their own sections in the webinar is because based on the survey results, those were things that you guys all really wanted to see in this webinar. I also did building equity. There's a couple short answer questions. There's a couple multiple choice. There's some true false. And then there is also a section that's just rating the webinar. I kind of want to see, what we learned, what I could improve on, what I could do differently. And I'm treating that and the extended response reflection kind of as like the discussion piece, because it's an asynchronous webinar and not a synchronous webinar. Those are kind of like going to be the discussion pieces. Of course, we can't have that conversation, but at least I'll be able to kind of see where everybody's head's at in terms of like when they're done with the webinar. I also included my references because as I was doing it and creating it, I was pulling more references. So there are lists of more sources than the ones that were originally on my document. I really thought this project was really fun, and I got to work with a different platform that I had never used before, which was really cool. So I really hope that you guys enjoy it.